From the land of sky blue waters, welcome to the Sota Pod. You should join me here alongside my friend Seth Toupal, who will be joining us momentarily. And I thank you all for joining wherever and whenever you are listening. Look, I didn't think we'd have a jam-packed show here today. And it's not like we have a ton of news, a ton of topics. But when you get Seth and I going on a certain wild topic, down a certain path of conversation, we tend to go, talk, and that is perfect for a podcast, especially a hockey podcast in the dog days of summer. Having said that, we do have some great topics in which we dove into, including the whole Jeff Marek situation, his exit from Sportsnet, being investigated for the leaking of the picks. We'll get into all that and more, ladies and gentlemen. We'll also talk about the Minnesota Wild's 3 prospects at the World Junior Summer Showcase who are doing extremely well right now. We'll talk about the Beauty League and a couple other things, so stay tuned. And we'll end off the show, as always, with a Hoppy Hour segment. Again, if you are listening on the audio side of things, go check us out on YouTube to get the full experience of the Sota Pod, especially the Hoppy Hour. Now, on the audio side, you're going to hear the same things that me and Seth go over. It's not really going to change. There might be some graphics on the screen. Hell, when we react to some fights, hint, hint, nudge, nudge, that we might be doing later in the show, it's probably more beneficial to watch it on YouTube. But that's not to say if your favorite way to consume the podcast is via Spotify, Apple Podcast, is via audio form, that's okay. That's okay. But the Hoppy Hour is a completely different segment. On the audio side of things, you're a week behind. Not that that's a bad thing, but I am talking about the beer that I featured in a beer tasting and review vlog on the Sota Pod podcast side on YouTube. So even today, ladies and gentlemen, even today, the beer that is on the YouTube side of thing is going to be a tasting, is going to be a review, is going to be a vlog via video form, and it's not even going to be the same beer that I am talking about here today on the audio side. So just wanted to let you guys know to go check us out on YouTube. Another just quick housekeeping note, Judd's Buds, the live stream is being pushed from Wednesday now to Thursday until further notice. Same time, 6:30 p.m. Central Time, but now on Thursdays, no longer on Wednesdays. As always, the Judd's Buds podcast will be released on audio form every Friday, but the live stream will be on Thursday now. Okay, guys? All right, housekeeping notes done. Before we bring on Seth here, I just want to give a big shout out to our friends at Northland Vodka. Northland Vodka, the best vodka in the United States, ladies and gentlemen. The best vodka that I've ever had, to be perfectly honest. Whether you want to use it for mixed drinks, whether you want to drink it straight, it's just such a tremendous product from such a tremendous company, ran by such tremendous people, such as Mark Parrish and the team there. Happy to call Mark Parrish my friend, but even if he wasn't, I'd be hyping up his vodka anyways, ladies and gentlemen. Find it at pretty much any liquor store now. They're totally interactive on social media. So if you can't find it on the shelves at your local liquor store, hit them up. Ask them where you can find it. Ask them where they stock it near you. And don't forget to check out where they will be doing meet and greets, bottle signings, and hosting events throughout the rest of the summer and early fall. We love our friends at Northland Vodka, and the best thing about it is a percentage of every sale goes back into local hockey, goes back into the community, ladies and gentlemen. So what are you waiting for today? You looking for a bottle of vodka? I know the one for you. Northland Vodka, a proud partner of the Sota Pod. Now let's bring on Seth Toupal and talk some puck. And we are back for another hockey segment here with my friend and yours, Seth Toupal from Locked On Wild. What's going on, Seth?
Not much. Got some sun again. And I'm feeling like the tan is really starting to set in, which is nice because it's already August. Where'd it go?
Bro, you look more Persian than me right now.
And I've got like, you know, you are out in the sun when you have just the, you've got the nice sunglasses.
Oh, the shades. Yeah.
They don't come off. When I'm outside, they do not come off.
I like that. Well, I finally got prescription sunglasses, so that's been me this summer when I have been outside and not podcasting and streaming and whatnot, which is good. This is the first time in my entire life that I've had prescription sunglasses, and I've had glasses since I was like 9 years old. So I used to have to, when I had the smaller glasses, not the hipster ass round ones here, I used to just put like cheap sunglasses, like literally like the free ones you get at like music festivals and shit, just over top.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I'm driving along thinking I'm like so cool. And I look at like, the girl next to me, like, yo, what's up, girl? And she's like, what the fuck? Why are you wearing these stupid side? Why are you doubling up on glasses, you idiot? Let's see if I can find them.
The things we do.
Yeah. These are great. These are great. Oh. Check it out. And they're pretty nice. They're pretty nice too.
Oh,
hey.
Hell yeah.
And I can see it's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing.
That's the way to do it.
Oh my God. And of course Hoppy was there to make fun of me for this, but so the screen on my little vlogging camera, okay? And this happened to me like a couple times this summer. I'm outside at a brewery patio. I was actually at Prize Brewing, which the video to that is on my City Life Project YouTube channel, and you guys probably saw a chunk of it on one of the past Sota Pod episodes for the Hoppy Hour this summer. But yeah, so when I was at Prize, I was trying to take some B-roll out on the patio. So my sunglasses were on, it was a bright sunny day, and the screen is black. And I'm like, oh no, like I've had this camera for a few years, like maybe the backing light's gone or whatever. So I'm like tapping it a couple times, trying to get it going. And so I just give up on the B-roll outside. Get inside, have a few beers. I'm like, okay, I hope this works. Let me fire it up again. Okay, yeah, inside it works. All right, we're all good. Take the B-roll, go outside, do my thing, whatever. Fast forward to 4th of July weekend, out at the cabin, actually out on the boat, trying to get some B-roll and do our Hoppy Hour segment. Which was 2 episodes ago, guys, the barrel-aged ones. And we're out on the pontoon. Turn on the camera again. I'm like, oh, fuck, like this is happening again. Like the screen's going black, whatever. And lift up the sunglasses, and the screen is bright as day. And I'm just like, oh, my God. It's just because, like... It's just because of the sunglasses. I was like, I am an idiot. I can't believe that. And Hoppy was there looking at me the whole time, like, because he was there at Prize as well. And he was like, are you kidding me? He's like, well, and in Hoppy fashion, he's like, yeah, you are an idiot. That was dumb. And dude, no joke. I was like looking at like replacement screen lights. I was like thinking about getting another camera with the money I don't have. Like, oh my goodness. It was, yeah. So I've been Hoppy's punching bag for about like 4 years now. 3-4 years now. I'm used to that. That was fine. I'll take that one on the chin. But I was relieved. I didn't have to replace that cam.
better to take a lowercase L than an uppercase one.
Although apparently he wants to. Apparently he's ducking a boxing match from me. I'm just saying.
Well,
I said I'd box him. I said, he's like, Isha, you want to box? I said, bare knucks, or you got gloves? He's like, I don't know about this, actually. I don't know about this. So,
I'm having second thoughts.
Apparently boxing's like a drinking game, but we were at Joe's bachelor party, his brother, my roommate. I was so many beers in after watching the Usyk and Tyson fight where I was like, bro, we don't need gloves. Let's go. And he's like, no, calm down, you psycho. I didn't mean to actually box.
Whoa.
Yeah. Which, I mean, Hoppy's got some size on me. It probably wouldn't be a good idea to box him. Although I think I'd hold my own for at least a round or two. Like, what do you think?
You'd have to land a high volume of hits. But if he started to, if you started to kind of wear out, then he'd get the advantage.
I just think it's like one good one from him is going to put my lights out. But if I can go in and out of the pocket, like I got the speed advantage. He's definitely got the power advantage.
You've got to swoop in and attack from afar. But if using kind of your speed to your advantage tires you out later in the fight and it gets close combat, then yeah, that's where I'm afraid I think he has the advantage.
I'll still go bare knucks, Hoppy, or a hockey fight. You name it. Time and place. Let's go.
If you need somebody to officiate it, I don't have any plans.
Nice. Have you seen that Russian hockey fight league? Have you been seeing on like your Instagram and whatnot? it's kind of like that Ice Wars, but it's like it's not on synthetic ice. Like it's on a full-on ice rink. They have a ref and everything, and it's just like these big old like Russians straight out of prison who they don't have hockey helmets on. They have headgear, which like what the fuck is that going to do when you hit the ice, right? And it's the first one to get knocked out loses, and it's like a TikTok sensation right now.
Oh my Lord,
it's amazing. It's amazing. I'm not gonna lie, I applied for their English commentary. Don't think I'm going to hear anything back, but because I had to use a Google Translate on Chrome to just like fill out the application. So yeah,
time will tell.
But anyways, there's a little hockey talk as we get into actually some hockey talk here. We had to rag the puck a little bit, guys, because like there is literally nothing to talk about right now. We are in we are in it. We are in the thick of summer here. This is the dead puck era, ladies and gentlemen. This is the time of year where the GMs are even on break, right? Like there is nothing going on. Billy Guerin signed Brock Faber and was like, all right, now I can take a few weeks off. I'm not even going to be paying attention to the summer showcase. But speaking of, we will talk a little bit about the Brock Faber contract. As Seth and I didn't have an opportunity to talk about that last week, I opened up the show talking about it, obviously, but I want to get Seth's thoughts on that. We will also talk about the World Junior Summer Showcase, as 3 Minnesota Wild prospects are actually showing very well, and we'll give just some of our thoughts and update you guys on that. The only hockey that is going on this summer right now is the Beauty League, and for our listeners who aren't from Minnesota, and there actually are a good chunk of listeners outside the state, hell, even outside the country. Seth and I are going to talk a little bit about the Beauty League. I'll lean on Seth a little bit more, being the local guy here, but there's a few quirky rules to the Beauty League and some interesting players outside of state participating as well. But before we get to all that, let's start with the biggest story in the hockey world. Dare I say a shakeup in the hockey world, Seth, north and south of the border. Sportsnet's own popular reporter and media personality Jeff Marek, host of the 32 podcast as well, was shockingly fired just a couple weeks ago. What was your first reaction to this before we get into some of the details that have surfaced the last few days?
You know, it's funny because it was one of those things that you just assumed it was the dead part of the off season, and so that's when everybody that covers the NHL kind of tries to slip in vacations. And so that was my first thought is, you know, Jeff hasn't been on anything for a little bit. Wonder if he just tried to sneak in a little bit of a vacation. And then all of a sudden it went from like 1 week to 2 to 3 to, hey, something is not right here. Because I think it was, I think there was mention like immediately after the draft that they were going to do 32 Thoughts was going to do like a recap of it. That never came.
Yeah. And
so then the alarm bells started to come out, and it was like, okay, there's something sketchy. Something has probably happened. And then the details started to come out. Jeff Marek is no longer with TSN. And at that point, Sportsnet. And then at that point, it's like, all right, we need to hear more. There needs to be more to this story, because somebody who's that good at what they do just doesn't disappear. Like there's clearly something that happened.
Yeah. And we didn't get that extra information. We didn't get that information until literally going into the weekend now, Seth. And actually, I was streaming mixed martial arts, as I do commentary on mixed martial arts on my second channel, the City Life Project, Thursday night, I want to say Thursday night or early Friday. And like a random account who doesn't ever comment to my live chat was like, yo, did you hear about Jeff Marek and a potential gambling scandal? And I went, yo, source? Like, hello, what? I first time I've been hearing about this. And that's all they dropped. So I didn't do any more digging until Sunday, the day of this recording. But as Seth alluded to, after the draft, no 32 Thoughts, no word from Marek. We heard from Sportsnet and news outlets that he had been let go. Marek then made this tweet saying, firstly, thanks for the outpouring of kind words on Twitter/X. It really means the world to me. After 13 years at Sportsnet, I'm moving on. It's been an incredible journey, and I'm thankful to have worked alongside so many great people and played a role in bringing sports and hockey news to fans across Canada and the world. More to come soon. So when I saw that, I'm like, okay, like, maybe they're just making cuts. Maybe his contract was done and he wanted more money because, I mean, deservingly so. He's massive, right? North and south of the border. He's one of the biggest, he's one of the biggest personalities. He's one of the smartest guys and one of the better storytellers at Sportsnet as well. I love his little segment that he did with Brian Burke. And had it was like cartoon, but they did the commentary and they would tell hockey stories. Like he's a hockey historian as well as a media personality. So my initial thought was it's a money thing, follow the money, right? He wants to be paid more. They don't want to pay him more. He's gonna take his talents elsewhere, and I just and literally after that tweet came out, I was waiting for like ESPN or TNT to make an announcement. I really was. Still didn't hear an announcement, right? So we're almost a month in. We're almost 3 weeks in to not really knowing what's going on. And over the weekend, we find out that he was actually accused of tipping draft picks to a friend of his in the hockey world. Marek obviously was a commentator for the NHL draft at the Sphere in Vegas. And he went dark on social media in 32 Thoughts, like we said, since July 9th. According to The Athletic, Marek has come under scrutiny from the NHL during the first round of the draft for allegedly revealing to a friend during the first round which players teams were drafting moments before those picks were publicly announced. The NHL referred the situation to the Nevada Gaming Control Board. That's how serious the NHL took this, since it took place in Las Vegas. Since the NGCB is a law enforcement agency, they actually cannot comment on whether this is an ongoing investigation or not, or if they're investigating a person or an entity. But the fact that they're not making comments, kind of leads me to believe that, okay, there was or is an investigation going on. Sportsnet nor Marek have responded to these allegations at all. The only thing we've heard from Marek was the tweet that we just showed you guys on screen if you're watching on YouTube, or the tweet that we just read here on the podcast. So again, he was accused of tipping the picks to longtime friend, former scout, Mark Seidel. Mark Seidel is, again, former actually scout for the Minnesota Wild. As this, as we connect this to our podcasts here, Seth, and to the most of our listener base here being Wild fans. Yeah, that is right. He is a former National Hockey League scout who worked for the Minnesota Wild. He's the current director of scouting at North American Central Scouting, a scouting outlet that he owns. And he's also the current director of player personnel for the Barrie Colts of the Ontario Hockey League. It's funny, I've even talked to Mark Seidel, as he didn't necessarily have a podcast, but was regularly featured on a podcast that was, and I think still is, part of the Hockey Podcast Network when I was involved with them. So no gambling impropriety has been confirmed yet. Seidel was tweeting correct basically picks of the draft before they were formed and officially announced. NHL draft picks can be wagered, though not close enough to the actual selection for it to have been possible at Nevada licensed sportsbooks. That's important to note. Regardless, Sportsnet decided to terminate Marek due to being part of the broadcast. He was given that info from the NHL before it was announced. Even if it was a little bit before it was announced, he was given that info before that, before the picks were made. So that's important to note, because for example, Frank Saravelli, he's infamous, famous, however you want to categorize it, at leaking news very, very early. The Seattle expansion draft comes to mind, right? We knew who Seattle was picking all their picks before they made their selections. But the difference between that is Cervelli got that info from sources where Marek was the source. Right? So it's a little different here. Now, again, none of the involved parties, alleged parties, none of the involved parties alleged that any actual inside betting took place. Leaks were for Seidel to, and I quote, better prepare and offer analysis of those selections. And I'm quoting a awesome article, by the way, by from thedetector.com. So Marek was just trying to help out his buddy. He was just trying to help out his buddy here. Barry Pacheski, who's editor-in-chief at thedetector.com, I was talking to him a little bit on Twitter, and he's the one who wrote the latest article talking about this story. It was published today, again, Sunday. If you guys are listening on Monday, then yesterday, whereas the news of this, potential betting scandal and or the news of why Sportsnet let go Marek came out on Friday. So he got all this info and then kind of formed his article. It's the best one that I've read so far. This guy actually really knows his stuff. But Seth, before I turn it over to you after going over all this, the best quote from the detector.com article by Barry Pacheski was, if Marek is guilty of anything, it's having a dumbass friend who can't keep his mouth shut. Was it fair for Sportsnet to let him go under these circumstances? Was it fair for the National Hockey League to report him to the NGCB? I want to hear from our listeners as well, and those on YouTube. Comment. Let us know on the podcast side of things as well. If you can comment or hit us up on Twitter. But Seth, I ask you the same question. Is it fair from the NHL? Is it fair from Sportsnet? Given that, this is a big deal because he was the source.
Yeah, this is an interesting one for me because it's not necessarily who you tell, it's that you told. Yeah, is essentially what this boils down to. And it wouldn't have mattered if it was a high-level scout, somebody that was going to be on a different network talking about these players. It didn't matter who it ended up being. And, the funny thing, too, is like you talked about, and we see this in pretty much every sport, especially with the draft, is you've got those high-level guys. You've got Adam Schefter. You've got Ian Rappaport in the NFL. You've got Adrian Wojnarowski and Shams Charania in the NBA. Those guys that this is what they get paid to do. And it's one thing to put a pick out there on social media a little bit before everybody else knows. It's one thing to do that, but this is very clearly something else. And it's something too where like the NHL sees that going on and they may talk to that particular reporter and say, hey, can you hold off on tipping all of the picks so that we can build up a little bit of the suspense? And that kind of circles back to my feeling on this whole thing is that it doesn't matter who it was. The NHL looked at this like, well, he told this guy. Who's to say that this won't happen somewhere else? And then you run into a situation of like, what happens if there's some trade that throws the whole board out of whack? And then, people hear things that don't necessarily come true.
Especially on the gambling side thing, like this is in Vegas. So like, again, there wasn't a sports book that I highlighted here. And again, big shout out to The Athletic, big shout out to the New York Post, and big shout out to detector.com. That everything that I just relayed to you guys, I drew from those articles there. So I wanted to give them a shout out. But according to the detector.com article and Barry Pacheski, like there were no sports books, at that time where you could bet on this because it was so quick. It was just so immediate. Right. Yeah. But you can bet on draft picks, right? In all sports. So I think that's where like the NHL right away was just like, nope. Like there's someone who we've trusted, right? In Sportsnet, the broadcast here, because Sportsnet is the NHL's like official broadcast. It's not TSN. If it was TSN, and they would have been trusting in TSN, but no, they were trusting in Sportsnet. Marek works for Sportsnet. He has a responsibility to keep his mouth shut and just put on the show. The reason he was being fed the info was because he was hosting the show. He needed to do some quick little research. He needed to devise some questions quickly for some of the players that he was going to be interviewing, right? His role was not to feed that information elsewhere, especially if there was a chance that Mark Seidel could be making some money off of this stuff as well, right? And again, by the way, like Mark Seidel hasn't said shit on this, right? He's he has kept his mouth shut. I've gone through his Twitter. He hasn't even commented on any of this. He hasn't even said anything about Marek at all. So
well, the thing too is, as sports betting becomes more and more prominent, especially here in the States, you get to where, like, especially on the mobile side of things, it doesn't take you as long as it used to be able to get a bet in. Like if you have
instantaneous now,
like you can fire off a bet off of an app in 2 seconds. And so if you're getting that info, before it becomes available, as opposed, it's one thing to go through the draft board and guess, hey, I think this guy's going to go here. But it's another thing entirely if you're throwing big money down and you're like, well, I have a guy that confirms it's going to be this player, so I'm going to try to make a profit on it. Yeah, the whole thing is just, it feels like it just came out of nowhere. And honestly, with as long as Marek has been in the industry,
and with the company, right? 13 years just with the company alone, let alone the industry, right?
I kind of shake my head. It's like, it's one of those things you just, I don't know, you're in a place so long that you get a little comfortable and you just don't expect anything to be able to bring you down.
Yeah. I wonder if he's done this before and Mark was just more timely.
Yeah.
Right?
This was maybe
versus being a little too early to try to, I don't know, go full Randy Marsh with his big balls,
Well, and it's like, it's such a fine line because it happens on social media in literally every draft of every sport.
Yeah.
I see people all the time that when it gets to be draft time, they tweet out, they're like, I'm going off of my phone because I don't want to know who's getting picked before they get picked.
For sure. But again, that all comes down to like, sure, Mark can tweet those, but the fact that it was Marek who was clearly fed that information for the purpose of putting together a good broadcast.
Yep.
With probably the, like, again, I don't think there's any any clause that said he couldn't share, but it's just that like journalistic or
privileged information.
Yeah, privileged information, exactly. Like there's some integrity to it, and they went, okay, well, like you broke our trust, so fuck you, sort of thing, right?
It's all about getting caught. Like it's not a problem if somebody doesn't find out. But at the same time, that first time you cross that line, companies are like, I don't really like this.
And this with big potential ramifications and legal ramifications too, right? So insider information being one of them, right? If Buddy did make a lot of money. So the NHL wants to nip that in the butt right away. Yeah. As like you said, sports gambling is becoming huge. Sports gambling is sponsoring the National Hockey League now in various states and various provinces, and they want to make sure that it's looked at through a positive lens with little to no drama as possible. I mean, look what happened with the Ottawa Senators earlier this year, right?
These different entities pride themselves on offering a wide array of bets for people to throw down on.
Yeah.
And so it's like there are capabilities, like you said, there are capabilities to bet on where players are taken.
Yeah, I mean, there was and the UFC is big on this as well. I mean, UFC fighters used to bet on themselves to win all the time, right? And now if you are an active UFC fighter, you or your immediate family cannot bet on any sports, not just UFC anymore, because there was a former UFC fighter who actually owned a gym and had co-ownership in a minor league, and basically like the minor league was there for him to like feed his gym fighters in, give them easier matchups allegedly, so they could help pad their record and get noticed by the UFC. He was on The Ultimate Fighter twice. He was an active UFC fighter at the time, and he publicly made a betting Discord. He publicly made a YouTube channel where he would give picks, And he even said on some of the biggest MMA shows, the MMA Hour with Ariel Helwani in particular, that he makes more money selling his picks than he even did with his profits from his gym or as a coach. And what's sad about this is he was actually a really, really good coach. He coached champions. He coached champion Brandon Moreno. And a lot of guys who were coming out of his gym were amazing because he had a really, really good eye for the sport, because he was like a pretty good MMA fighter. He wasn't terrible. He wasn't great, right? He was somewhere in the middle, good enough to be on the UFC roster, right? Which is the MLB, the NFL of the NHL of MMA. But a scandal came out where one of his fighters, the line moved so much. Basically he was a favorite going in, and it moved so much for him being an underdog. And it turned out that his fighter was injured, and he kind of, again, allegedly pushed the fighter to go out there injured anyways, told his community about the injury, and everyone was just betting on it. Told all his subscribers anyways, the paid members in his Discord, about the injury. His fighter got absolutely smoked like in the first round, and everyone who bet on like a first round finish or inside the distance or whatever TKO finish, like they all made mad money. And the UFC and like not just that, but like the federal government have been still and have opened up and are still investigating him, and none of the fighters who are part of his gym or who had any affiliation to him are even allowed to fight in the UFC anymore, which is absolutely crazy.
Jeez.
Yeah. I don't mean absolutely crazy as in wrong, just like crazy in general. And apparently he's doing real estate now. I'm sure he's doing that in good faith and totally legally as well. But
yeah, there's no pattern. There's no established pattern here.
No.
None whatsoever.
No, but like, so that was the big thing that happened in mixed martial arts. And I mean, other than like, was it Shane Pinto, right, for the Ottawa Senators?
Yeah. That
was a very small incident, but like, yeah, to circle back and before we move on to the next segment, like the NHL doesn't want a James Krause incident like with the UFC. They want to make sure that like we nip any possibility of this, even though it didn't happen, allegedly, right? Even though there's no proof that any betting happened yet, according to all the sources that I read anyways. They just want to avoid that as much as possible, and it sucks that Marek was kind of involved in this potential scandal.
Yeah, he just got caught in the crosshairs of this, but it doesn't matter who it is. It matters that it happens.
Yeah. Given that like there's, and we kind of just peeled off the layers to this, given all these layers, like, do you think he goes independent? Do you think a network picks him up again? Because, do you think a network would trust him now based on?
That's interesting, because I feel like this would be a really good opportunity for a very established market to really strengthen their coverage. I don't know if
ESPN.
I was going to say even The Athletic. I don't know if they would take a jump at a guy like that to add to their
could they pay him enough
coverage? Well,
that's my thing.
That's the key. ESPN could, but does ESPN care about the hockey coverage enough to throw resources there when they're paying guys like Stephen A. Smith $55 million a year?
Shoot, maybe TNT is the option.
Well, that wouldn't be bad. I feel like for Jeff, he's going to. This seems more like, and in the announcement of him leaving, when he said more details to come on what's coming next, usually that's a sign of people are putting some things together kind of on their own to do their own thing. Substack, Patreon.
Yeah.
So it kind of feels like maybe he goes that route to just to kind of distance himself from this, and then maybe catches on.
That's such a pay cut.
I know, but he's got enough of a following that's
true.
Doesn't matter what he does, people are going to follow. I think for him, the key thing here is just to kind of distance yourself from this a little bit.
Yeah. Well, because in Canada, it's the only other option is TSN. And like, again, if who knows if the NHL is like, and I know the NHL is not affiliated with TSN right now directly. They are a little bit like RDS, which is basically TSN's broadcast in Quebec. RDS and TSN in Ontario broadcast a handful of games. So there are some NHL games for the Montreal Canadiens, for the Ottawa Senators, and the Toronto Maple Leafs. But that's it. There's no other TSN game coverage anywhere else in Canada. It's all Sportsnet. So maybe TSN even, or maybe the NHL even told TSN, like, you know, don't hire this guy.
Stay away.
And you know, the NHL influence. I mean, if TSN wants to at least have a little bit of a deal or be on the running, because it's basically back and forth. It's like politics. It's like politics. Sometimes it's the blue side, sometimes it's the red side. Blue being Sportsnet, red being fucking TSN. In literal color, ladies and gentlemen, not in, you know, political leaning way. But, you know, sometimes Sportsnet gets the junior rights, sometimes TSN gets the junior rights, sometimes TSN gets the hockey rights, sometimes Sportsnet gets the NHL rights, right? So it could be a factor where TSN is, where the NHL is kind of wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Hey, TSN, like, please don't do this. And if you do this, then like we'll remember it, sort of thing. You never know, right? And again, that might be far fetched, but like, I mean, Seth, you've been in this industry a lot, and like even at a lower local level, like there are politics to it.
Yes, yes, there are.
Yeah. Crazy stuff. I said there wasn't a lot going on this summer. This is the story. This is the story of the summer. It's the Jeff Marek summer of hockey, ladies and gentlemen.
This was the bombshell that nobody was expecting, that kind of rippled the industry a little bit. A lot.
Yeah. Something we were expecting to happen, though, as we segue to the next topic, a Brock Faber extension. Now, I woke up in the morning right before last week, Monday morning, right before I was about to post the episode, and I went, damn it, of course it was announced Monday morning. Seth and I didn't have time to talk about it. I know we both had kind of exhausted the topic, both on Judd's Buds and the last Sota Pod episode. I know you had an episode that dropped right away on Locked On Wild about it, but I just wanted to talk to you a little bit about it here. And I read the Joe Smith piece where he interviewed Billy Guerin shortly after he signed Brock Faber. And there's a few things I want to highlight, but just for my listeners on the Sota Pod here, which are quite a few of your listeners as well, as you know, I love the cross promotion that we've done. It's definitely worked, and it's super cool to see a lot of the Locked On listeners come over here. It's awesome to see a lot of the Sota Pod listeners have gone on to listen to your show as well. We love you all. Thank you so much for the support. But do you like the contract? Was it exactly what you figured? Like what were your thoughts? If you can sum up, you know, your reaction to this.
Based off of everything that we heard going into this, it was expected it was going to be in the 9 range, and so the fact that they got him at 8 by 8.5 that put a nice smile on my face. I mean, it's still a ton of money for a player, but let's look at it this way. All these things that Brock Faber did in his rookie season, the points that he put up, the minutes he played, the areas in which he really helped the Wilds stay afloat with all the injuries that they...
Well, shoot, he was injured too, and he still played, right? And he played well.
He played through 2 months worth of broken ribs. And so it's funny too, there are a lot of people on Twitter that point to like this drop in his production over the final 2 months of the season. And it's like, funny that coincides with what would be a very painful injury to try to play through. And yet he did. For me, this is a no-brainer. Like, Faber is right now very close to matching that AAV in terms of production, and he's a rookie. He has just limitless levels to be able to grow his performance, especially on offense. And all of a sudden, if let's say a year or two from now, he turns into a double-digit goal guy, is like a 50 or a 60-point defenseman that can also play defense for you really well and
eat up minutes,
contribute on both special teams units. All of a sudden, you're looking at a guy that is worth 10 and a half a year, and you got him for 8.5 until he's 29. Like the Wild have done this now pretty much three straight times with these extensions. They lock in guys for long-term deals, and we get 2 or 3 years into the deal, and we feel like it's just an insane bargain. Look at how we feel about Joel Eriksson Ek right now. Insane deal. That guy's playing like an $8 or $9 million player right now, and he's making 5.2. Matt Boldy, $7 million in the first year of his contract. He exceeded that AAV, and he's 22 years old. There's no doubt he's going to continue to exceed his performance and play like at the minimum like an $8 or $9 million a year guy. This is just, it's like contracts for quarterbacks in the NFL. Those prime level defensemen, every time somebody gets a new deal, they reset the market. And, you know, Cale Makar got, I think, right around 9 over his last deal. We've seen Rasmus Dahlin get one.
He played 3 full years, though. And that's what I highlighted. That's what I highlighted. Faber only played 1. And there's not a lot of comps. There's like 1 or 2 comps for a guy who's only played 1 season, 1 full season. I know you had a cup of coffee after college. I get it, but like, so that's just the interesting thing, because even Quinn Hughes, he played 3 years, right? Dahlin played 3 years, but he signed the big one. He's making 11 mil right out of the gate, but he's fucking sick.
Jake Sanderson, I think, was the big comp. He made, I think, 8.025 on his deal, and I mean, you compare the two guys, and I don't know about you, but I'm pretty sure I would rather have Brock Faber.
Yeah,
between the two.
I know there's not a big sample size, but like I'm fine with the contract. Like I'm confident that this is not just a flash in the pan, because it wasn't. If it was just points, right? If it was just points and a guy sacrificing defense to get those points, then it's like, no, stay away, because you are a defenseman, and once teams figure you out, the points will dry up. Mm-hmm. Or if you get injured, or you know what I mean? Like those aren't necessarily sustainable. We even see some of the best goal scorers have off years and things like that too, or go through droughts, etc. Or you go straight like, you know, Devin Setaguchi, right? Like you never know when you just sign guys, just especially guys whose primary role is defense. When you just sign them straight off points, it can be a little like I mean, shoot, man, look at even a guy like Erik Karlsson, who puts up stupid amount of points. He puts up superstar forward points. There's still people who complain about his contract because the defense at times is lacking, and it's like, man, at the end of the day, we still need you to play defense. Like, of course 100 points are, we're not going to bat our head, but you know, like 60 points and no defense, like you kind of want to balance. So just shy of 50 points, amazing defensive numbers, right? The workhorse that he is, the hockey IQ that he possesses as well. 1.8 WAR, top 30 defenseman, which is in the top 30 NHL defenseman. He's in the top 35 for defensive goals above replacement. Again, one of the highest minute guys in the National Hockey League. Just shy of 50 points. Should have won the Calder, got absolutely robbed. The hockey writers don't watch fucking hockey, Seth. They don't. I'm sorry. They don't watch hockey. The fact they voted for Bedard is criminal. Absolutely criminal, dude. Just like how Robertson didn't win the Calder and Kaprizov did. But that's another story. See, I'm not biased. Everyone's saying, oh, biased because you're Minnesota. Well, no. Kaprizov shouldn't have won the Calder. Robertson should have. Just like Faber should have won the Calder and not Bedard. But anyways, I digress. Billy Guerin also said that he would rather sign guys to a big contract now in their prime when he has the opportunity, even if it's a little bit of a gamble given the sample size, given it's only been 1 season, not 2, not 3, versus signing guys for the thank you contract. You know, he wants to sign guys who are in their prime or entering their prime versus, you know, a thank you contract for thank you for everything you've done throughout the year, even if you're still a very good player, right?
Yeah.
Kind of like Ryan Suter and Zach Parise, right? He would rather sign guys before and push his chips in the center when they're young, when they're still developing, when there's still room to grow, versus when they're either plateauing or about to enter their decline. And I agree with that mindset, especially given that he's just about later this month, he'll be 22 years of age. So he, like you said, he hasn't even hit his prime yet, and he's this good. He hasn't even hit his prime yet, and he's a $7 to $8 million defenseman, right? So like in a year or 2 or 3, he might be valued at a $10 to $11 million defenseman, and they have him a few $1 million cheaper. So that is awesome. Billy Guerin was saying he's mature enough. He's already a leader. He's a core player. Just with 1 season at 22, just about 22 years of age, Billy Guerin said he's confident he's going to get better, and he's worth the risk because he's so damn good. And these are all quotes from Billy Guerin that you can find in Joe Smith's article from The Athletic and Fellowship of the Rink on the Sota Pod. You know what's funny, Seth, too, is in that article, and I didn't know this, Faber found out he was traded to Minnesota from LA, even though he was still playing for the Gophers, while he was doing homework. Like, he was dialed into his homework, studying when he got the call from his agent. So usually in college, you want to forget about all those like hard nights studying. But I'm pretty sure that night and whatever subject he was, knee deep in will always be there in his memory.
The interesting thing to me about all of this is we're starting to see why draft and develop is so important. And I know there's a lot of angst and consternation about the recent extensions that have been handed out. But like, you've got Eriksson Ek now, you've got Matt Boldy, you've got Brock Faber. If Kirill Kaprizov stays, these are the contracts that you are building around. And draft and develop like the Dallas Stars have done, then you can if you can find those guys to be like your top 6 key guys and you lock them in, then you get back to kind of building this front to back as opposed to back to front, which I think is where a lot of people kind of want to see this thing going. And, we look at Danila Yurov as being the next piece of this potential puzzle. And you've got other guys that could potentially step up into that mix. And if they perform well, they're going to get deals similar to this. And then you've got all that money allocated to those core guys. And you go out and find the bottom 6, bottom line guys to sprinkle into the mix. So hopefully this is kind of the flipping of it to, all right, let's throw big money at these guys we want to keep around as like the key guys. And, that's kind of my hope, is that we're starting to see things flip to the direction of team building that we all would like to see.
It's so crazy. I look back on, given, from Vancouver Island, big Canucks fan, the Sedins made under $6 million when they were putting up 100 points in their heyday. Jeez. They got their thank you contract and only made 7 each. They took a hometown deal to stay with the Canucks for their final 4 years, which they had up and down seasons. I think they had 1 year, they had like 2 years of 1 year of 80 points, 2 years of like around 70, and they had 1 year of 40 each. But guess who their coach was? It was John Tortorella, who was putting them on penalty kill, asking them to block shots. So everyone, and the Canucks missed the playoffs that year. Everybody, that was the year Kessler got traded. It was an absolute disaster. Luongo asked for a trade. So that everybody suffered that year, but they were still putting up, 60 to 80 points in their final 4 years, and they're still only making $7 million. And I get the market was a lot different back then, but still, you think about like what those guys did, 100 points each. Absolute stars in the league, winning, Selke trophies, winning Rocket Richard trophies. Like, it's just, it's absolutely wild. It's absolutely wild how Mike Gillis was able to lock them up as a pair early. And if you think about it, like he literally got 2 for 1 because, they were $10 million players who, were just over $10 million as a package, which is absolutely insane. Yeah. Crazy.
They don't make them like that anymore.
No, dude, I don't think in our lifetime, definitely in our lifetime, we're ever going to see brothers, let alone twins, on the same line who are equally as talented. Like, that shit's just wild.
Unless Kirill has a twin brother we haven't heard anything about yet that can play hockey.
But I mean, if we haven't heard about him yet, he's not at the same level, man.
Right.
Like, it's absolutely insane how. Yeah, it's just it's wild. It's wild. I don't know if you guys have seen like the documentary pieces or stuff on how Brian Burke swung that to get, because like they weren't gonna be playing on the same team. Like, one was supposed to go like second, one was supposed to go third, right? And he got them both. Wild stuff. And little late bloomers too, but when they popped, holy shit, it was fun to watch. Fuck all you who are gonna comment Sedin sisters on YouTube. A pair of Swedish twins. This episode of the Sota Pod is brought to you by BetterHelp. And look, ladies and gentlemen, everyone goes through ups and downs. Everyone goes through rough patches in life. And it's important to identify and stay true to your self-care routine. Whether that's leg day at the gym or therapy day. Is your schedule packed with summer activities for the kids, work that's keeping you inside versus enjoying the good weather, or are all the boxes checked and you're confused as to why you're feeling down. Sometimes we can have everything in the world that makes us happy and we still don't feel right. Sometimes we need to talk about it with somebody and a shoulder to lean on. Therapy should be in those non-negotiable self-care routines if that's the case. And if you haven't talked to anybody before, if you haven't talked to a therapist and you're thinking about it now, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient and suitable to your schedule. So right off the bat, there's a stress lifted off your shoulder. Just fill out a brief questionnaire and get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapists at any time for no additional charge if you feel like that person is not a fit for you. Just like those who use the gym for self-care, much like myself, never skip your run day, never skip your leg day, never skip your therapy day with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/THPN to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/THPN. Again, to get 10% off your first month here today. We're looking out for you guys. BetterHelp.com/THPN. Take advantage of our deal and start feeling better today with BetterHelp. Anyways, we got two more quick things to talk about here before we wrap up, guys. The Minnesota Wild have 3 key prospects at the World Junior Summer Showcase. Now, I know Hoppy and Z have talked a lot about that on Judd's Buds, and there's video clips from their last episode on our YouTube channel, the Sota Pod. There's the full episode from last week, the live stream, which they get into a huge segment of it, and part 3 of the podcast side of things, if you're listening on audio, is completely devoted to that as well. They get into a little bit more detail, but Seth, the 3 players that the Minnesota Wild have there, 2 on Team Finland in Sebastian Sioni and Rasmus Kumpulainen, are each having a great summer showcase. The 5th round pick in this last draft, Sioni, has played 2 games. He's recorded 2 goals for Finland in those 2 games. Rasmus Kumpulainen in 1 game had 2 assists, and he was actually wearing the C for them as well. Obviously, Kumpulainen is going to be playing for the professional Liga team, for the Finnish Liga, the pro team in Finland, whereas Sioni, he might. Now, he played 6 games in the pro league last season, but played 36 for their minor league team, which is Mestis. So he played 36 games for Mestis. He played 6 games for Liga. So he very well might be at the stage where he can play in Liga now, which would be awesome if, 2 of the better Finnish prospects for the Minnesota Wild are in the pro league there playing with men and developing, especially given that they're under 20 still. But look, the Mestis League, if he has to still play there for another year, like, again, he's a little bit younger than Kumpulainen, like that's okay. But cool to see that these guys are doing well. Have you heard anything else on these 2 guys from the summer showcase and anything that's going on with them this summer?
I think my favorite part about all this, pretty much what you've heard is what I've heard. But
okay,
my favorite part about this is that Kumpulainen is wearing the captain's patch.
Yeah,
like that just gets you excited because we're looking for that next. Jared Spurgeon's not going to be a Minnesota Wild defenseman forever, which means he's not going to be the captain for the Minnesota Wild forever. And so your eyes kind of get going down the path of like, okay, who's coming next? Who are going to be those next players that can wear the patch and can be part of the leadership group, and
or even the next, right? Because like they'll probably be someone sooner than he comes over who will take it, assuming Spurgeon's not going to be this team for too much longer. I mean, depending on this guy's trajectory, I think he's at least 2 years out before the National Hockey League. Well, his contract's 2 years, so yeah, he is 2 years out. But no, totally.
Yeah, and it's just nice because, not even necessarily if Kumpulainen would wear a C or an A, but you just know, having had him do it, that he's got capabilities to be one of the guys that's leading the way in the clubhouse.
Yeah, coaches are confident in him to be that leader, yeah.
That's, I think, the exciting part. We know Brock Faber has that in him. There are other guys. I mean, Joel Eriksson Ek is like he's the guy that I think you would want to most emulate. You see some of it from Marco Rossi. And so, you got a bunch of guys that are capable of carrying the lead, and Kumpulainen can just slot right into that and help kind of usher in the new era when he gets here.
Well, Liam Ugrin, I believe, was captain of the Sweden Team Sweden for the World Juniors last year as well. So actually, that's just such. Now that we've kind of gone through the list there, like, look at all these guys that the Wild have who are leaders. I know if you put too many leaders in the clubhouse, sometimes it gets a little contentious, but I don't see it that way with these guys because all of them have the same thing in common. They're good. They're good people, and they want to win, right? Yeah. But and how awesome would it be though for the smallest one in Rossley? That would be awesome. That would be hilarious. It'd be hilarious in the best possible way to have like the smallest, like little freaking fire hydrant pit bull of a player be the one who's like throwing the shit in the room, being like, "Come on, boys."
Well, and I think the big thing too is knowing what it means to wear it, and knowing what it means to be a player not wearing it when one of the players that is speaks up. Like, I think being on both sides of that coin is key to having an effective room and having an effective like hierarchy of team leadership. Is, you know, okay, I'm not, just because I'm not wearing a letter, like when one of those guys, like if Marcus Foligno steps up to talk and say something, you know it carries weight. And you know if you have it on your sweater that if you say something, everybody else needs to listen.
Yeah. No, for sure. For sure. I like that. I like that a lot. And obviously the third player that we're going to talk about for Team Canada, snubbed last year, which is why probably Canada lost. I hope you learned your shit, Hockey Canada, because this year we're going to beat the piss out of the Americans. Let's go. Let's go. Sacrilege on a Minnesota-based podcast, I know. But Riley Heidt, 1 goal, 2 assists in his first game at the Summer Showcase. An absolute stud, right? Second rounder in 2023. He's going to be at Minnesota Wild training camp. Knock on wood, fingers crossed he has a great performance so that they keep him at least for the amount of games that that they can take a look at him for, right? Yeah. Before he reaches that deadline where it's like, okay, you got to either keep him here or send him back to junior. I'm rooting for him. I do think he has what it takes, right? You saw him play earlier this summer at that development camp, the junior development camp, and now he's looking good at the World Junior Summer Showcase for his international team. So far there's like 2 boxes checked, right? 2 boxes checked for that tweener between who's not quite 20 years of age, but too good and you know, not old enough, right, to be pro out of the CHL, out of the WHL, right, out of the Canadian Hockey League, but is too good for the WHL, too good for Canadian Hockey League hockey, which, I mean, if you're too good for Canadian Hockey League hockey, like, you should be ready for the National Hockey League. So that's why I'm just like, I hope he has a good camp. I'm rooting for him so far. Like I said, he checked both of the boxes, so everything's on schedule. The plan is, there doesn't seem to be any speed bumps in the plan, Seth. So I mean, right after this Summer Showcase, like the last thing is for him to do well at Wild Camp. And even if he makes the team, I think the Wild should still send him to the World Juniors.
Yeah, like I feel like at his age, you know, the NHL experience is right in front of him. Like it's not like he's going to lose anything by going and being part of that. And so at this point,
unless it's like point per game and the Wild are like, hey, we literally cannot afford to send you, right?
Like if it's to the detriment of what they're doing at the NHL level. But, you know, as far as I'm concerned, any sort of major competition is good for a guy like that. But it all depends on where he's at in the standing with like the roster. I mean, if they pencil him in as a like irreplaceable part of the mix, then he probably won't go. But if not, yeah, send him. Let him do his thing and just continue to compete in these different competitions that carry weights, because then he knows he's got a little taste of what the playoffs is like once he gets here, so that moment won't be too big when the Wilds are trying to go on a big run.
When Canada wins gold, he'll come back with all the confidence in the world too.
If
when, anyways, but I mean, and and if say him and Ugrin are both on the team and their minutes are kind of fluctuating, like some games Ugrin gets more minutes, some games Heidt gets more minutes, then like then that's even more of a possibility. Even if they're both playing really well, it's like, okay, we can, again, assuming he's not point per game, okay, we can afford to send you, and we'll up the minutes of Ugrin a little bit here, and okay, well, welcome to the big leagues now. We're not sheltering you at all. Like, we're going to lean on you hard, and then when Heidt comes back, then we start splitting it up a little bit again here. But again, at the end of the day, for both of them to make the roster, they're good. Like, if both of them, do well enough in training camp, like, that's going to have to force the Wild to make a move to make a spot for an extra spot so that they can both be on the team, which again is best case Ontario. I mean, scenario.
And that's really, you can't ask for more than that, because at the end of the day, it's going to be Bill Guerin that needs to make the decision. And this team is trying to be playoff competitive this year. And so
every year it seems like,
well, and that's, you can only say to a point, like, let's throw Freddie Gaudreau in there, for example. You can only say to a point, we feel like this is the team that gives us the best chance to win. And the more seasoning these prospects get, you're not telling the truth. Because like, let's say it came down to it and Riley Heidt had just an insane preseason, looked phenomenal. Looks like, okay, he's not going to learn anything else from playing anywhere other than the NHL roster. And let's say Freddie struggles in the preseason. You're going to tell me that it's still the better choice to keep Freddie Gaudreau on the roster than it is Riley Heidt? Because what do we know, Isha, about veterans? They may not give you that higher ceiling, but you are, in theory, getting a player that is more consistent.
Safe, higher floor, safer.
Yeah. The rookies, they have great moments. There may be some hiccups, but the only way we learn is through failure, right? That's the only way we as human beings learn to move forward, is through failure. And so,
and the organization has to see, is this guy a bust or not, right? And then that's my only, my small concern with how good the cabinet is right now of prospects, how full it is like, some of these guys we might not even get to see the opportunity. It's just like, on paper they're good prospect, but like, we gotta see. You draft these guys, you develop them, which I know it was last year's draft, but he had an amazing developmental year. It's like, okay, you draft these guys for a reason, to play on your National Hockey League team. Sometimes you got to bite the bullet and make some room for them. Yeah,
I would rather at this stage in the game, with, we're on Kaprizov watch now. I would rather at this point, at this stage in the game, give Riley Heidt a chance. And, worst case scenario is he gets the opportunity and you're like,
not ready yet.
He's just not ready yet. It's not going to likely be that you see him play and you're like, oh my God, this is a disaster. But on the flip side, what if you give him that chance and you're like, oh my God, this guy is insanely good. Like, plug him into the lineup and just let him do his thing.
Yep.
But like you said, you don't really know the answer to that question if you just continue to like plug in kind of the safe option on the roster. And this is where it all comes down to what Bill Guerin and John Hines said at the end of the season, where some of these veterans better be keeping an eye out, better be watching over their shoulder, because we're sending these rookies after them to take their jobs. And so then we get to this point where it's like, okay, the talk has been talked. If these guys give you the best opportunity to win, are you going to walk the walk and put them in opportunities to be able to succeed and to help you out?
Yeah. The future is definitely bright. It's on the management now to make the right decisions. They're willing to gamble a little bit. Look what they did with Faber's contract. Let's see if they can gamble some roster spots this season. And next year, it's in the bank. It's already signed, sealed, delivered that Yurov's coming over. So somebody is getting the boot next year, regardless up front, right? Because they have to, and they are going to fit him in. So this year is just going to be an interesting year. And I know there's a lot of people out there who are not going to be happy with this, but like, this year might be another stinker of a year. But the positive of it is we actually might see some development of two key players, hopeful, knock on wood, key players in Heidt and Ugrin.
And this will be a season in which I think we see some of the deck chairs get shuffled, because
or
Marcus
thrown off the deck, just straight up thrown off the deck.
Yeah, that's a less polite way of saying what I was saying. But
that's what I'm here for.
Marcus Johansson is in the final year of his deal. Highly likely that'll be it, and so that'll be a spot that opens up.
And he might even be moved to a playoff team.
Yeah, he could be moved during the season depending on how things go. Freddie Gaudreau, another guy. It's like if his performance does not improve, Bill Guerin is going to get impatient with that, and then that could be another spot that gets moved
right to Columbus.
I pray every day for that.
Dude, the content that we'll have from that is just like, from a content creator's point of view, I need that to happen.
I will just take,
and I will get his jersey.
I'll just take Dean Evison's face and transpose it over Shooter McGavin's body when he misses out on the gold jacket and he's got his arms out like,
yeah. Dude, no, just like how Hoppy has the Koivu Cannon jersey, no joke. When Freddie gets traded to Columbus, I'm getting the Cannon Freddie Gaudreau jersey, and it's going to be hanging. I'll replace this little cabinet thing I have and just get it framed.
But that's how this process works. Is that this season it's like, okay, prove that you're capable. If you're not, you're gone. Like that's just how this process works, because as frustrated as we got watching guys struggle last year in regular spots in the lineup, you've got guys that are knocking on the door to be ready to take those opportunities. And so as long as they produce, they'll stay. If not, well, there's another spot for a young player to get a chance.
Yeah, well, already internally, like Freddie Gaudreau is going to try to fight for that third line center spot with Kuzendinov, right? So like, there's already some internal like competition with that, because like we need Kuzendinov to play third line center. Or I hate even to like, he needs to. Technically, it will be third line center. I know that's triggering for some people who think he's like the best center on the team, and he's going to be a great center on the team. He needs to have more minutes than Gaudreau. He needs to get those better matchups. I hate doing 1, 2, 3 because the Wild's lines aren't really built like that. You know, like the second matchup. They're matchup based. They're matchup based. Yeah. But you know what I mean? Like he will be the more shutdown guy in a role that needs to have more minutes than the fourth. Because like the fourth line is the fourth line. Yeah. But 3, 2, and 1 are obviously 1 and 2 are going to get more minutes. But with Kuzendinov potentially with a Heidt or an Ugrin on his wing, like that and they assuming that they play well, that could be a really solid line.
Well, and you look at how things changed for Freddie once John Hines took over. Like his usage just dropped. Like he wasn't the go-to center under Hines. It was Joel Eriksson Ek. And then all of a sudden he gets taken off the penalty kill and he's not doing anything on the power play either. Like he's just low on the totem pole from a center perspective. And yeah, he did have an over 50% face-off percentage, but
when he had 2 really good years, like I don't want to poo-poo that. It's just like we don't need him anymore.
And so we
don't need his services anymore.
That's where if he comes back and he performs well, I'm willing to, give him a little benefit of the doubt from being injured part of the year last year.
We won't trash him, but it's more like, okay, now trade him.
It's just, and this is like the crux of the argument that I get into on Locked on Wild all the time. It's like, you've got these guys in these particular spots, but it feels like you have options internally that can do better.
Yeah.
Like it feels like you can just take a little risk and get a better reward for what you are at. Because let's just talk about this for a second. If you go into the season and have pretty much the same things happen as did like this past year, you're not making the playoffs.
No, absolutely not.
Like you can, if you plug in a rookie who exceeds expectations, and all of a sudden you can throw a guy who has 20 to 25 goals out of nowhere on that second line, and you've got 2 legitimate scoring lines that you can throw at people, that's where you start to get back into the conversation. But the only way you do that is if you're willing to just take a little bit of a risk.
And Freddie, look, guys, we're not naive to the fact that he has a 15 team no move clause, but so you look at the teams that he can go to, and you sweeten the pot with something you have in the system. That's another reason why you have some of these guys, you know, maybe some B-level prospects or something like that. And yeah, it sucks that you may have to give one away to send Freddie Gaudreau out there, but what sucks? What's worse? Taking away an opportunity from one of your A-level prospects and being stuck with him, or using one of the assets you have to spice up a deal and send him somewhere where he can go play and maybe still have a good rest of his career, right? Like, you know, I'm totally fine. I played enough be a GM in my day on Xbox and or PlayStation to know that sometimes you got to sweeten the pot and it works out in your favor. I'm just saying.
Remember that trade before, not last season, but the one before that, when Bill Guerin traded Dmitry Kulikov in August and he got a pick in return. Like, that was after the St. Louis series where he got Olayed like every game, and we're like, oh my God, you got to get this guy out of here. And Bill Guerin did in August. He got him to go to the Anaheim Ducks. Didn't have to retain any salary, and the Ducks gave us a pick in return. Teams are willing to take bodies on, and like you said, Freddie's got, I think, 4 years left on his deal, so maybe you sweeten it a little bit. But teams like Anaheim, San Jose, who are just desperate to get players on to fill cap space, to get them above the cap floor.
Like you're telling me Montreal's on his no-team trade? Absolutely not. Montreal's 100% going to be on his trade list. So you send him to Montreal with a prospect, you know, someone who's not going to be out of Iowa for a while if they ever make the National Hockey League, right? Like,
well, and who's to say he wouldn't waive? Who's to say if you said, hey, we want to send you here, you're going to get an opportunity to do this, 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 and this, that just doesn't exist here.
Well, true. I mean, they can have the conversation with him, but I'm saying, like, there's probably options. I mean, yeah, it's half the league, but like, still, okay, there's half the league that he can potentially entertain with. I mean, it's not easy moving these type of players, but that's what makes a good GM. That's what makes a good front office, is facilitating these type of moves, right? So like,
it's not easy, but it's not impossible.
No, and if you know what you're doing, if you really do have a good front office, whether it's the GM or their team around them, then like, yeah, I'm going to put my faith in the GM to do that. Because that's one of the reasons why they're hired, right? And I know a lot of you want to cut Billy Guerin's friggin' head off and put it on a steak soccer player style, right? But like, look, he's fumbled once. He's fumbled once in a very restricted cap role and player and roster right now. And did he shoot himself in the foot a little bit? Absolutely. But until he goes full Jim Benning, I'm still gonna I still have a level of confidence in him, and yeah, we'll see how it plays out. And not just in him. It's like, again, it's not just him calling the shots. For how much it may seem, you know, he does listen to the other guys there for the most part. And I know there's a little bit of drama last year, but I don't think that has anything to do with just straight up defying him on like a move that's like to the level of, oh, I have an opportunity to get Freddie Gaudreau out of here. It's like, you tell me that Billy Guerin's going to have that big of an ego. It's like, no, I didn't make that call. We're not going to move him. Absolutely not. Like, shut the fuck up if you think like that, right? So anyways, folks, we just want to take this quick break to tell you about our friends at DraftKings. Know the beautiful thing about being a sports fan? There's only like 2 days out of the entire year without a game. 2, with so much happening and so much action that makes just about every day game day at DraftKings Sportsbook. It's super easy for first-timers to get started. Try betting on something simple like picking a team to win. Go to DraftKings Sportsbook app, select your team, place your first bet. It really couldn't be easier or any simpler. And if you're new to DraftKings, you gotta check this out. New customers bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets instantly. So what are you waiting for? Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use promo code THPN. That's code THPN for new customers to get $150 in bonus bets instantly when you bet just $5. Only on DraftKings. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER, or in West Virginia, visit www.1800gambler.net. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort, 21 plus age varies by jurisdiction. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after insurance. Deposit eligibility restrictions apply. See terms and responsible gambling resources at dkng.co/base. Now back to the show. Look at that. Look at that. We get going, Seth, and we just go. Last thing I want to talk about here, it'll be quick, but the Beauty League's going on this summer. We always say it's the dog days of summer. There's not a lot to talk about. And I'm be the first one to say, like, I don't watch every Beauty League game, but when I do, it's so much fun. And you being the local, like you've been following this tournament for a lot longer than I have. To be honest, I got into the Beauty League when Brock Besser was playing in the Beauty League, right? Because as a Canucks fan, when they drafted him, he was playing for Team Bick, baby. I even have a Team Bick shirt back home somewhere in storage. And I started following this weird and wacky summer league. And before I ask you what your favorite quirks are and just your favorite part of the Beauty League, I just want to highlight my favorite. Okay, I love how it's 2 23-minute halves, short but sweet. It's, I don't know, there's just something to like a 23-minute halves. Okay, all right, I'm down. Let's do it. I like that. I like that. I love the double goal puck light rule. When illuminated, goals count for 2. And each team gets one chance to use the illuminated light for 2 minutes. It's just like, it adds to why and how games are so high scoring, because I think there was a game, last week that was like 16-8, right? So like you're going to see some goals. You're going to see some flashy stuff. It's not like the goalies are like fully extending, going balls to the wall. It's a good like warm up for the preseason to come. And it's not just Minnesota players that play. There are past Wild players who come in. There are siblings, brothers of Minnesota Wild players or local guys. So like maybe like, and college players can play as well. So like former Gophers, for example, maybe their brothers playing in like the ECHL and they need a body for a team. Like they'll bring them over to play. One of those being Jake Middleton's brother, who we'll talk about here in a sec before we close out the podcast. But like, what are your favorite quirks of the Beauty League and why is it so special to Minnesota?
Well, it's, I like the fact that there are PWHL players that are hopping in here, having a good time. I mean, Taylor Heisey, Grace Zumwinkle, Kelly Panic are all involved in this. But like you said, some of these tried and true Minnesotans, Nate Schmidt, who just signed with the Florida Panthers, like he's out here.
Love Nate Schmidt, by the way. When he was with the Capitals, he was one of my guys, dude.
A+. He
even played for the Canucks, but it wasn't a great time with the Canucks. So I remember him for the Capitals a little bit more.
St. Cloud represent.
Love Nate Schmidt. What a motor. What a motor.
But like, how can you beat the OT? It's like you're playing Flip Cup. Like you are in a race against the other team to try to get through your lineup and get to that 3-goal mark so that you can come away with the win. And
how about the shootout? How they have this going on both ends with 3 pucks?
It's just fun, and this was part of what made the PWHL appealing. Is you have it's pretty much the same game that we know. There are a few tweaks, but that's what makes it unique. And it feels like a Minnesota, like it's a tradition in the summer to kind of get us back into hockey mode. And it's just one of those things that is uniquely us, which is how Minnesotans love those things that are uniquely Minnesota. And what better way to enjoy late July into August than having some of the best from the state of Minnesota to do it ever, both then and now, and to have a little bit of fun while we're doing it. I mean, Kalen Addison amongst the leaders in points, and that wasn't a great situation that led to him being traded away from here, and yet he's still here.
He loves Minnesota. You know he has a cabin here, and you know a lot of the boys in the locker room still have like a good relationship and friendship with him, which is cool. Oh yeah.
And that's what makes this Minnesota is doesn't matter the team. They're all Minnesotans. There are some even that enjoy it enough that they're not from here, but they feel like part of here. And it's just fun. It's just fun.
This guy too.
It feels
I can empathize with that, Seth, being the Canadian now who's lived here for Shoot, man, almost over 2 years. How crazy is that?
Time flies when you're having fun.
Absolutely. Speaking of fun, the last thing here, it was fun to see Jake Middleton's brother tag in for I think 2 games while Jake was unable to play. They played 1 game together, and then 1 game Jake wasn't able to play, so he tagged in Keaton Middleton. Now, is Keaton Middleton an NHL level player? No, but they call him up when they need him to scrap, okay? He's just as much or more of a savage than Jake Middleton. Played for the Saginaw Spirit in the OHL, but I mean, look at his points, right? He was drafted in the 4th round because he did one thing well, Seth. He absolutely obliterated guys with hits and beat the fucking piss out of them. He played actually with Jake Middleton in the San Jose system for the San Jose Barracuda for I think 1 season. Then he played for the Colorado Eagles, the Colorado Avalanche organization. He's played 3 NHL games where you guessed it, he fought in those games, and he is most loved for showing off his fighting ability in every preseason, whether it's with the San Jose Sharks or the Colorado Avalanche. I mean, just especially these last 2 years, 125 penalty minutes, 136 penalty minutes, and he played playoff games with the AHL team as well. So I figured, you know what? Seth and I both like a good scrap. We opened up the show talking about a good scrap or a potential good scrap between Hoppy and myself. So let's react to some of his fights, starting with his junior days. Let's take a look at this one.
Vito and Pomerozniak will get the assist on the goal by DG Jacinto, who's certainly setting up as one of the stars. Now we're going to get Middleton involved in a scrap here with Logan Brown. A couple, check that, Stanley. That is Logan Stanley and Keaton Middleton involved. Two
big boys.
Defensemen going at it here, and Middleton rocks Stanley with a big right hand. And look at him polish him off, and he does. Logan Stanley, Keaton Middleton, both part of the Team Canada program at the
Love that they both
Under-17
smirk
event,
when they're
and
done.
Well, that's like they played Team Canada development program together, or development team together anyways. So the next one was in one of his early seasons with the Barracuda.
Now drop on the night for 1 for 8 on the power play. Rather, there's a shot back the other way. Is finishing that dot. Here we go. It's gonna be a goal.
I love how he's keeping himself like level and grounded by holding or pushing on the glass there. Oh, then lands a big right hand.
Peluso and Middleton squaring each other up behind
like
the
pushes off the glass almost. Oh my god.
Peluso 6'4", Middleton about 6'5". So some
6'4" and 6'5" boys. Like he's huge, dude.
Left jabs there by the youngster Middleton.
Yeah, you know you're a good fighter when you're able to hold on to somebody and still punch them with your left hand.
To continue to throw some blows. Took exception to a shove that Middleton threw.
Man, I love that, because if this was the NHL, the refs would have already like broke it up. But the AHL, they let him go a little longer because
they're like,
they
no,
know.
I wanna see this play out a little bit.
Well, in the ECHL, it's even longer than the A, because like they know why people are buying tickets.
Jeez.
All right, so that was in. So we're going through the timeline. We started junior, then we started the San Jose organization. This is with the Colorado Eagles.
Way by Greg Wires, we are back to full strength.
Ironically, playing the San Jose team.
Oh.
That was actually Kessie who came for the big check and missed.
Oh, actually, sorry. My bad. I got this one wrong. Okay, now I know why I got this clip. So this was actually right before he was traded to Colorado. He was still in San Jose, and the guy he's fighting, he actually was going to fight again when Kessie was part of the Minnesota Wild organization last year in preseason. So the last 2 fights here are going to be against the same opponent, but in Minnesota training camp, literally last year, September 2023 was their rematch. So my bad. Let's watch it again.
Taken away by Greg Wires. We are back to full strength. We may have a fight here. Jake Middleton's going to drop the mitt with Anton Lindholm, who came out of nowhere. Rather, that was actually Kessie who came for the big.
Yeah, so Kessie's part was, I don't know if he still is, but he's part of the Wild organization. God, he looks so much like Jake there, with his full beard.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Jersey over the face, couple uppercuts. Let's go.
He Gilmore'd him.
I love how they pan to like the family. Yeah, woo, violence. Yeah, that was me going to junior games when I was a kid, man. Going to Prince George Cougars games in Prince George. All I wanted to see was fights. I could care less about goals. I just wanted to see fights. All right. So this last one, this actually happened last year at training camp. I believe like September 25th or 27th, I think was the date, where Middleton, now part of the Avs organization, and Kessie, now part of the Minnesota Wild organization, had a little scrap here at the XL Energy Center. This is their rematch. And it was more of a clinch fight. They both had each other, and yeah, here we go. More in the pocket. That dude's a big boy, too.
That's great.
And this is a Wild fan who took this video, by the way, and sent it to Hockey Fights. So shout out to them. All right, a little, see, that's the difference. Even in preseason, they don't let them go as this slow mo as well. Fucking rights. But yeah, anyways, there we go. Wouldn't be a Sota Pod without talking a little fights there. And there we got to react to a little bit there. Yeah, Jake Middleton's brother likely won't play many more games in the show, but he's just as much of a savage as Jake there. So shout out to Keaton. Hopefully you have some good preseason scraps again, whether it's in Minnesota or because I don't know what the preseason schedule is yet, or or against any other team that they play in preseason, because it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun, and he knows why teams have employed him. He knows his role. He knows his role, and he stays relatively healthy for being a bruiser as well, playing over 70 games his last 2 seasons. But anyways, leave it to Isha to swoon over a non-Wild player who's throwing fists. But anyways, Seth, what do we got coming up on Locked On Wild this week, sir?
We're going to start turning our attention to the 2024-2025 season, going through the entire roster and like, what are we expecting from particular players this season? You know, rebound season, more of the same, what we've seen. And I'm embarking on a really exciting journey to try to do a crossover episode with every single Locked On NHL team before the start of the season. So we'll be mixing those in as well.
Nice. I love that. Well, as always, Seth, this was a lot of fun. Thank you so much for hanging out with us on another Sunday. And you guys are listening on Monday. Go check out Locked On Wild. I will be back on Locked On Wild on Friday. And we are always cooking up a fun segment there. So excited to jump on your show later this week, Seth. And for everybody watching and listening on the other side, we got a Hoppy Hour segment here on the Sota Pod. Big shout out to our friend Seth Toupal from Locked On Wild. As always, don't forget to check out all of his shows, but especially the Friday episode on the podcast side of things and on YouTube, as I always join Seth on that episode. Before we jump over to the Hoppy Hour, ladies and gentlemen, I just want to give a big shout out to our friends at 7th Avenue Pizza. And if you have not tried the meat sauce pizza yet, what are you waiting for? It wails, ladies and gentlemen. Also, deals everywhere right now on 7th Avenue Pizza. Jerry Foods, you can get them for $7.99. They got deals at Ludds and Byerly. You can find them at BOGO. You can also get $2 off your 7th Avenue Pizza at Hy-Vee. So many people took advantage of that deal over the weekend that I actually went to go pick up a 7th Avenue pizza when I saw that they were $2 off. And there were none on the shelf at my local Hy-Vee. So, I mean, I was a little disappointed personally, but I was very happy to see that people are supporting this amazing company in 7th Avenue Pizza. It is truly the greatest pizza on the planet. Like, I will never have to buy or order another pizza again. I don't even have to go to Italy anymore. I don't, because the best pizza on the planet is in our backyard, is at our local grocery store. And right now it's on sale, no less. And it's 7th Avenue Pizza, ladies and gentlemen. Great ingredients, the best sauce in the world, and even better people who work for the company. Matt and the crew are amazing. We love working with them. And they are also, just like our friends at Northland Vodka, they also are at various events, either sponsoring the events, helping out with events, feeding people at the events. So make sure to check them out on social media at 7th Ave Pizza. They're totally interactive too. So if you want to share which pizza is your favorite, if you want to share if you cut the pizza squares or triangles, if you're a squares guy, a little bit of a psycho, that's all I'm going to say. That's all I'm going to say. Regardless, they're so active on social media, Twitter/X, Facebook, Instagram, you name it. Great people, amazing company, and even better product. 7th Avenue Pizza, a proud partner of the Sota Pod. Without further ado, I'm thirsty. Let's get to the hoppy hour.
First, I'd like to propose a toast to UMD goaltender Alex Stalock. To Stalock! To Stalock!
I love that stuff. Been drinking it for years. You know, I heard they recently decided to add more hops to it.
You're all hopped out?
Welcome back to another Hoppy Hour here, ladies and gentlemen. And today, by request from one of our viewers, from one of our subscribers, from the man, the myth, the leprechaun, Sean Moody has requested that we review the Leinenkugel Summer Shandy, ladies and gentlemen. Now, I know we have reviewed a Summer Shandy on this segment, on this series before. That was a local one from one of our friends here in Minnesota. This one, I mean, Americans love this. Midwesterners love this. Shoot, my roommate loves it so much that he drinks it in the winter, not even in the summer. Actually, he also drinks it in the summer. So let's pour this shit up. We will taste it, we will review it, and then we will rate it on Untapped. As always, if you have any suggestions for beers, liquors, tier lists that you want me to dive into here on this series, drop a comment, like and subscribe, and let's pour this shit up. Holy shit. I smell so much freaking lemon already. Let's get it. All right, like I said in the opening segment, we have Jacob Leinenkugel's Summer Shandy here, as requested by our friend Sean Moody. For those who don't know anything about this brewery, it is a massive brewery that actually has a ton of other beers out of Chippewa Falls, Wisconsin. And for those who don't know anything about shandies, I'm gonna admit I didn't do a good rundown on the last Shandy review of what a Shandy is. It's essentially a beer mixed with something special, whether that's soda, juices, fruit, etc. This one in particular, ladies and gentlemen, is a traditional wheat beer filled with so much lemon. Now, not necessarily lemonade. It made that very, very clear, but lemon. I love wheat beers. So a German style beer mixed with a ton of lemon to make it oh so refreshing. You don't want to drink these warm, ladies and gentlemen, but it is described as being a crisp, refreshing beer, perfect for summer, inspired by Franz Kugler, whose Munich tavern was overrun with thousands of thirsty bicyclists. This sounds German as fuck. He mixed beer with lemonade and it was a hit. Like his, our doors are always open, so come visit the Leinenkugel family. My doors are always open here too, ladies and gentlemen. Unless you're hockey from home, because I got bars on my window because of you. Though it was inspired by mixing lemonade with beer, from all the reviews that I've watched, from everything that I've read, and from what other people have said on Untapped, this isn't a straight up lemonade and wheat beer. It's more focused on lemon rather than lemonade, but that's what everyone says about it. Now it's my turn to review it. Leinenkugel, Summer Shandy. Cheers, everybody. Nice color to it as well. This glass is way too fancy. Sorry ahead of time to my roommate Joe if I break it. Cheers, everybody. Oh my God. It's so refreshing. God, I should have done this whole beer review outside, to be perfectly honest. This is one of the most refreshing beers I've ever had. Wow. It's so light, it's so easy to drink. Now, you get that bitterness that you get in traditional wheat beers. Wheat beers have a little bit more of a kick than your traditional lager, so that it is a very light-bodied beer, as you can see. A little bit of a haze, but honestly that's probably coming from more of the lemon than anything, but you can see it's very light in tone, despite having a little bit of a haze to it. Most wheat beers are this color. Most wheat beers have a little bit of a kick to it. What I love about this is there's a little bit of sweetness, obviously inspired by lemonade and beer. Little bit of sweetness, but not overpowering as far as the sugar side of things. God, the lemon complements a wheat beer so well. Look, I'm not gonna lie, I've put a little bit of lemon juice or a lemon wedge inside many of my wheat beers before. You don't have to do that because this is already it. I've almost finished it already. These are way too crushable inside or on a hot summer's day. I was actually just guzzling them down the last time I was at my friend's cabin and we were paddleboarding, we were on the pontoon. Pretty much every moment that we were outside playing Beersby in the lake, we were just downing these, ladies and gentlemen. Now, they come in at 4.2%. So not only is it light in color, in essence, it also is a light beer. And if you're a fan of wheat beers, or even if you're not the biggest fan of wheat beers, but you like, shoot, lemonade, or just lemon in your drinks, cocktails, or even just lemon water, you'll love this. You can like this and not even be a fan of wheat beers. Again, there's a little bit of a bite to it. It is a little bitter, very much because of the all-encompassing lemon, not just the lemonade. You can taste almost that zestiness in it. I would say it's more bitter. The bite comes from it more from the zestiness of the lemon versus that wheat beer. I love this, ladies and gentlemen. I love it. I wish I had like 3 more that I could drink on camera here, but you guys don't want to see me get that messy, and Joe, my roommate, doesn't want to see me break his glass. So let's snap a quick pick for Untapped. I'll give my official rating and we'll see what the community has to say about it as well. All right, so on Untapped, it actually is described as a super refreshing traditional wheat beer with natural lemon flavor. It also gives some, and this is from the Leinenkugel's page on Untapped specifically. They say it actually pairs well with lighter and brighter foods like shrimp quesadillas, pan-seared scallops, lemon vinaigrette, or lemon chicken with pasta. And honestly, I dig every single one of those options. Before I give my rating here, let's see what the community has to say. So it got an average rating, 301,000 reviews on the Summer Shandy here. It got an average rating of 3.53. My friends who've reviewed it, out of the 6 friends of mine who've reviewed it, they've given it an average of 3.42. And as I'm scrolling through the community here, 3.75, 3, 3.5, 3.25. Okay, so no one's given it a 4, and I'm not surprised.
I'm not surprised, motherfucker.
It's a macro beer company. Though it's very consistent, I've never had a bad one. I've never had one that's like better than than the rest. It's massively produced. I'm sure maybe from a bottle or straight up from the tap, it's obviously a better drinking experience. Not an old can from the cabin a few weeks ago. Shoot, this one actually might be from a year ago. And it's still damn good and refreshing. Everyone kind of rated it and gave a similar review to mine. My review read simply, always consistent, super refreshing. I love me some lemons. I gave it a 3.25, and that's no shot at it at all, ladies and gentlemen. It's just simple and refreshing. There's nothing really more to it. And maybe it's because I've given some really good craft beers like a 3.5 and been a little critical on like some things in regards to how it's brewed, its taste like that. I can't give something that's massively produced and though really good, but this simple, anything more than a 3.25. If I gave it a 3.5, I don't know, it would have to be something a little bit more spectacular in my opinion. It would have to be something that I want to seek out year round. Now, would I drink this in the dead of winter? Sure. Beer is beer, ladies and gentlemen. Just like I am with coffee. If I was rich, I would be a coffee snob. I love the high-end and fun coffees. But I also just drink black coffee from a shitty coffee maker every day or gas station coffee. Quick Trip, I love you, but your coffee ain't anything special. I'm kind of the same with beer. I love craft beer. I love barrel-aged beer. I love hazy IPAs, West Coast IPAs. I love really high-end beer from amazing breweries. I'll also drink Lucky Lagers and hams all day, every day, ladies and gentlemen. So I promise I'm not being a snob in regards to my review here just because it's a macro brewery. I'm not giving it anything more than a 3.25. I think 3.25, hell, I think 3.5 for those who really like wheat beers and especially lemon type beers. Sure, I got nothing wrong with that rating. I just couldn't get it there. So I gave it a 3.25. I said it was always consistent, it is refreshing, and I love lemons. Let me know your rating. Let me know your thoughts on the American favorite, Leinenkugel's Summer Shandy. As always, comment what beers, liquors, tier lists you want me to dive into on the next one. Like and subscribe, and until next time, enjoy the sun, wear your damn sunscreen. Cheers. All right, time to get a tan on. That is it. That is it for the show, ladies and gentlemen. As always, open to recommendations for Hoppy Hour segments, whether it's whiskey tier lists, whether it's just certain beers, local beers, or those that are from out of state, but distribute to the state. Let me know in the comments on YouTube. Let me know by hitting me up on social media at VI Sports Talk, at VI Sports Talk _ on Instagram, at VI Sports Talk on Twitter, or hit us up on the Sota Pod Facebook page. I know everyone has a Facebook page. No one really uses it as far as being like a social media other than, I guess, their messenger app these days or Facebook Marketplace. But with our Sota Pod Twitter account being temporarily shut down, we're going to be super active on all of our other social media accounts as well. So do not be shy. Do not be shy at all if you want to hit us up there. And I am always down to take your recommendations. I mean, the last Sota Pod, the last Hoppy Hour that I just did on YouTube, that was a recommendation from you, a listener. So thank you to my boy Sean. Thank you so much for that. Before we wrap up the show here, I know earlier we had a sponsor on sports betting, primarily for those outside of the state of Minnesota. But for those who are in the state of Minnesota, ladies and gentlemen, we have a gift for you. That is right. I want to talk about our friends at Better Edge. BetterEdge.com/SotaPod. Hit that up if you have not signed up yet, as we are giving you $20 to sign up. That is right. We are giving you $20 to sign up. Better Edge is a free platform with legal betting in the state of Minnesota. You cannot use a lot of sports books in Minnesota, but you can use Better Edge. That is right. A free platform with legal betting, and it's also among 44 other states as well. And unlike your traditional betting apps, this one's more of a social media betting app where you can challenge your friends. You can join various games and competitions much like the game day pick'ems that Hoppy and I run throughout the Minnesota Wild season, much like the bracket challenges for the high school hockey tournament, as well as the NCAA Frozen Four. And again, if you haven't signed up yet, betteredge.com/sotapod, we're giving you $20 if you go to that link and sign up here today. It's awesome, ladies and gentlemen. I primarily only gamble on two things in life: the show Survivor, which I can't do on this app, but that's okay, and UFC. And the UFC is buzzing right now, and more MMA might be added to the app as well. So if you're a combat sports junkie, much like myself, in addition to being a hockey junkie, go check out the app, use that $20, and challenge my picks, ladies and gentlemen. I've been doing really well in my UFC picks right now. I need someone to challenge me. It's getting too easy. It's getting too easy. betteredge.com/sotapod. Now, if you're already a user of the app, if you're already loving the app and you want more out of it, you can become a premium player. Premium players have access to free entry to premium pick'em contests, order grades, advanced order filterings, API access, and more. More details at betteredge.com/premium, but we recommend you guys go to betteredge.com/sotapod. Get your $20 signing bonus, join the fun, and hit me up. Challenge my picks for the UFC, ladies and gentlemen. Better Edge, a proud partner of the Sota Pod. Well, that's it, ladies and gentlemen. That is it for the show. We hit hockey. We got all the sponsors read. We drank some beer. And it's awesome always hanging out with you guys as well. As always, if you're listening on your podcast app, please give us 5 stars and whatever review you want, whether that's a beer suggestion, whether that's feedback, or whether it's just a kind review. But giving us that 5 stars on iTunes and Apple Podcasts, isn't even iTunes anymore, Apple Podcasts, whatever, as well as Spotify, as well as any other podcast app that you use that you can rate the show. Please do that, as it just helps us get in front of more listeners. It helps the app push our podcast to more hockey fans. And the same sort of thing on YouTube. If you like this video, please like the video, comment, as it just helps YouTube push it to more hockey fans as well. And again, we love the feedback and we want to hear your suggestions for further Sota Pod episodes, for further Hoppy Hour segments in the Sota Pod episodes in particular. Again, reminder, Judd's Buds live stream moving to Thursday, same time, same place on the Sota Pod YouTube channel. And again, that's at the Sota Pod. Hit us up on Facebook right now. Our Twitter account is temporarily suspended, so hit us up on Facebook at the Sota Pod. Hit Hoppy and myself up on Twitter at State of Hoppy, at VI Sports Talk. We're going to be active there as well. Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, thank you. Those are the housekeeping notes. That's it. This is the end of the show. Thank you all for your ongoing support throughout this summer. It's great to see you guys still tuning in for the show. And with that being said, signing off, I'm Isha Dromi alongside my friend Seth Toupal. This has been the Sota Pod, presented by our friends at Better Edge, 7th Avenue Pizza, Northland Vodka, and even Waggle Golf. Don't fear, just drink some beer and stay wild.